let the clients guide you, listen to them, spend a lot of time with them, understand their needs. That's why for us, the vertical piece is tremendously enriching because we can be much more focused that way and really focus on the specific needs of the verticals we're servicing, understand from them, use them as soundposts for us as we think about our value proposition and the evolution of it.
Hey guys, Damian Stevens, host of MSP Mindset. On this special edition, we are live at Build IT Live 2024 in Orlando, Florida, and I got the pleasure of interviewing Sumeet, who is a top 50 MSP. He's going to share amazing insights. Don't miss out on our conversation. So Sumeet, how did you come to be at Netgain, and what did you do right before that?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I've been blessed into the service provider industry across 3 decades. I have worked across the spectrum of both being an entrepreneur, co-founding a service provider and running that, working in a larger setup with a publicly traded service provider and scaling their international operations, so expanding into EMEA, APAC, and then really working with a traditional hoster with data centers and transforming that business into managed services, both private cloud, public cloud, running it at scale, and exiting that in 2019 to a private equity. And now my latest really sort of role is partnering with another private equity and getting into much more of a vertical managed services play. That's something that
That's an unusual term. But let's now that you're Netgain, but tell me a little bit about what you mean by vertical MSP.
Sure. So back at, in my prior venture, which was Naviside, we always used to think about verticals, but the concept of verticals was a cluster of clients that we were providing very similar services to, traditionally managed IT services or hosting services. And for me, the unscratched itch was that, hey, as I look at specific verticals, there are needs of the vertical, both the ecosystem of applications that are running in the vertical, the problems that those verticals are facing, that I think a technology provider is best suited to address that, right, and go deeper at. And so that's really where I created a thesis that, especially in the lower mid-market segment, which I would roughly define as 50 to 500 employees, there's a tremendous opportunity to not just bring in the traditional managed service and cybersecurity lens, but to do that in a much more focused manner where you're really talking about the specific issues and challenges in a healthcare context, right? The patient experience and, really sort of what can be done to address that, what can be done to unlock operational efficiency in the accounting context, what can be done to manage more efficiently a stack of 41 plus applications that a typical CPA firm has, and do so at scale, how to deal with tax season. So there are very specific issues that I felt were largely not being addressed or being talked to directly, not to mention the ecosystem of applications and being able to kind of bring all of those together.
So the vertical MSP is your niche, but and then what else? What am I leaving out?
I think when we look at, in the context of Netgain today, right, we're really operating at the intersection of what I would say is 4 circles. One is very vertically oriented, so we work in 3 verticals: healthcare, CPA accounting is the second vertical, and legal is the third vertical. In those verticals, we're bringing together the ecosystem of partnerships, the specific application expertise, and the knowledge and the know-how. So that's one piece, is the application and the vertical piece. The second is public cloud. And really, as you know, a lot of transformations taking place, and a lot of digitization and moving away from the transformation of legacy infrastructure into public cloud, and really creating a baseline on which you can start to have operational efficiency, you can start to have automation, you can start to deploy use cases around AI. So moving people into public cloud and doing that in an efficient manner as the second circle. The third is cybersecurity and really bringing a lot of deep competency in both looking at it holistically, not just as a set of controls, but as a holistic posture across 25 different vectors when we look at it in a client context, collecting telemetry, increasing visibility. So not just addressing it in a reactive but a proactive manner, and having a 24/7 lens with trained security analysts that are trained to deliver outcomes, not alerts. So that's the third lens. And the fourth is, the 25 plus years of people, process, technology normalization that it takes to deliver an enterprise grade service. So for us is bringing all the four circles together and operating at the intersection of those four circles.
That is much more than a niche. Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Servosity. I created Servosity because I was an MSP that lost data. Then I had to go in front of my client and tell them I can't recover. If you've ever been there or worried that you would be there, then you may want to take a look at Servosity. We do two things that nobody else is crazy enough to do. We test your backups maniacally. We do that daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly for you. Then we manage the backups for you so you can focus on growing your MSP instead of babysitting backups. If you're interested in our unlimited storage or immutable storage or any of the things that I'm talking about, visit servosity.com. So why did you start with healthcare?
Healthcare is where the company got its start, 28 plus years ago, right? So the company was always kind of in the healthcare space. The founders really saw a tremendous opportunity to back then host EHR, provide a hosted EHR solution. As you know, a lot of ambulatory centers, regional clinics lack that scale to be able to kind of host eClinical or NextGen. And so that became a pretty successful business. And then that expanded into traditional managed services as well, managing the on-prem infrastructure, providing the help desk services. So that's where the company got its start, was in the healthcare, particularly on the provider side.
Interesting. So why, from your perspective, why managed services and why now?
Yeah, I think it's when we look at our why, like we step back and say, look, in the broad, spectrum, all businesses of all sizes across all industries are being redefined by technology, right? That's an ever-present truth. And particularly businesses that are in that lower mid-market segment that I would define as the 50 to 500 employees lack both the economies of scale and the economies of expertise to be able to apply technology in an intentional manner to redefine the business. What I say is the enterprise of the future, right? That's really embracing and adopting technology. And that technology today is in context of cloud. It's in context of automation platforms. Tomorrow it's in the context of AI. And I think the MSPs are uniquely positioned to make sense of all of this stuff and apply it in a context where they can partner with these businesses to shape the firm of the future.
What do you see the future for Netgain in terms of growth? Is that going to be primarily organic, primarily M&A? What kind of mix would you suspect?
Yeah, for us, the last 4 years has been primarily organic growth, really focused on the three verticals. In each of the verticals, be it in healthcare, be it in the accounting, or be it in the legal segment, we are and continue to see a tremendous runway for growth, especially in that lower mid-market segment, sort of north of SMB and south of enterprise. There's tremendous white space to be much more focused, to speak the language of those specific verticals, to bring use cases to bear to digitize and take the businesses, and take the infrastructure into public cloud, to normalize that, to run it in a more efficient manner, to partner with CPA firms and bring automation to bear, right? Where we're actually using Azure's Power Automate platform to digitize and compress, sort of traditional business processes. So I think all of that goodness as an MSP is not in the traditional MSP context. Certainly there's an aspect of that, which is you're running and managing the infrastructure, you're securing the infrastructure, you're bringing a proactive view of security. But really all of that is what I would say is the ground game and the hygiene to build upon, to really kind of bring the data together and to say, let's start to, set up what I would call is the base infrastructure to do more interesting things around AI. And we're in very early stages there.
So, and you mentioned that you're focused on the vertical, you're also focused on public cloud and cybersecurity. And so from an investment perspective, you build out your own SOC. Is that what it ended up?
Yeah, we actually took the bold step of building out our own SOC. That was about a year plus ago. And really having the expertise operationally. I have a CISO who I've partnered with in a prior lifetime. We've run a similar playbook of creating a whole MSSP and a cybersecurity play. And so for us, I think it's a pretty bold step and one that entails a lot of work and effort, and I would not recommend it to anyone that hasn't done it before. But for us, having the operational expertise, having access to talent, having access to technology, having been through it and kind of knowing the play field and sort of what to do and having the playbooks facilitated that thinking that, hey, this is a core part of the value proposition, right? Sort of security cannot be outsourced as a service provider. It has to be brought in-house. And, a lot of my MSP peer CEOs are they've already acquired MSSPs or are looking to acquire MSSPs. And so for us, we spent significant time looking at acquisitions, but it just made more sense to go and make that investment. Today, we've got a fully operationalized offering, and we're seeing tremendous success in attaching that as a core part of the sale with all our deals, right? Security is no longer an afterthought as much as it is a core part of the value proposition, and we position it that way as well.
Yeah, and building out a SOC is super capital intensive and time intensive, so most people can't do it, and even the folks that can still don't. I'm kind of curious why do that?
I think for a few different reasons. One, we wanted to make sure that the security value proposition was truly integrated into our core value prop, right? I always say it's less about alerts, it's more about outcomes, and the outcome is delivering a secure posture for our clients. That's an expectation that clients should have of their service provider that's managing their core IT infrastructure. So for us, it was very clear that it needed to be a part of that value proposition. Two is, it's all about margin as well. And for us, it's important that, we're running a healthy business and we're able to realize the kind of gross margins that we are. And security is going to become a big component of the sale. If we went out and resold a service, number one, having that be well integrated. Number two, realizing the same level of margins would be difficult. And number three is just having the operational experience and access to it, in a CISO that's done it before with me, in a team that, we have worked together and was also, key to us taking that step.
We've talked about so many things already, but what do you attribute to being key to your growth that you've already been able to achieve and that you're going to achieve?
Yeah, key to our growth is really, I think, increasingly having a very consultative mindset with our clients, right? Sort of being partners in that journey. And so how we think about, for most of the clients you can imagine that we're working with, they have some level of IT, and we always come to the table, draw a pyramid and say, we want you to focus on the top of the pyramid, right? We want you to be partners in looking at innovation and enabling your firm. So spending time with key stakeholders and end users in the firm to understand how you can make their lives easier, looking at what other peers are doing. That's where we want you spending time. Let us go run that whole infrastructure. Let us go secure that. So I think there's a tremendous aspect of partnership with our clients and bringing a consultative mindset where they bring the ideas and we bring the execution expertise, and we together are able to accelerate not just their digitization, but also help them shape that firm of the future.
How do you talk about vertical MSP, public cloud, cybersecurity, you got all these things. It feels like almost like a niche within a niche within a niche. Is that how you differentiate to win these deals, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a niche within a niche as much as, that's where the puck is going, right? So you look at a lot of CP accounting firms, right? We've developed a reputation as an example in the accounting industry as the Azure guys. That's great, because a lot of them are going to Azure or already making headway there. And so for us to have a forward-looking offering that already takes them there, that bakes in the security piece, right, is streamlining and accelerating their journey more than anything. And so how I think about it is, hey, these are the enabling building blocks. And then what becomes interesting is what we do. It's not just managing and securing the infrastructure, but more importantly, what we start to do on top of it, right? Bringing the data estate together so that they can start to, look at potentially deploying specific use cases, look at, sort of deploying their own AI-based agents as we think into 25 and 26. I think that's where things become interesting. You and I both know that AI is going to be a big game changer in the way all of us work, and especially how enterprises get reshaped. It becomes it's less about a replacement of talent as much as an enabler of an amplifier of the potential of talent, right? And so bringing all of that together and helping firms realize value out of that, I think is going to be the next chapter for a lot of us MSPs, is putting the building blocks in place so that we can efficiently work with our clients and help them make sense of all of this.
What would you say is one of your primary challenges right now?
Our primary challenge is how we sharpen our message, right? And sort of get that across. So a lot of how we tell our story is always one that requires a lot of thought, right? It's all about enabling our clients to do more, and so I think differentiating and putting distance from the traditional managed service provider lens and telling our story much more effectively as an enabler of the firm of the future is stuff we're continuing to work on it and iterate on, is how we tell our story in the market.
I love that. What do you think the biggest opportunity for you right now is?
I think on the cybersecurity side, we're continuing to see wild adoption and growth, right? Sort of with really a keen lens on an outcome-based approach, visibility, dashboards. I mean, we've got clients who love the visibility that we've created. And so a lot of it is enabling that visibility in a self-service model where we're really saying you can just go to the portal and see what's happening in your infrastructure at any given point in time. That's part of our roadmap across the next few months, is really not just bringing that visibility to them, but enabling that in a self-service model, creating dashboards, helping our clients streamline their own downstream obligations and compliance by automating a lot of that stuff. These are all asks that our clients have that is, very much on the cybersecurity and just on the broader security and compliance side that, continue to feed, sort of a very aggressive exponential growth rate there. And I mean, I'm sure you've looked at the quadrant, right? There's over 1,000 vendors in cybersecurity. I've lost track across the 9 or 10 quadrants, and if we in the profession often struggle to make sense of them, let alone our clients, where that's not their full-time job.
Do you see a big consolidation in the cybersecurity space coming or not?
I think there's consolidation, but there's innovation, right? There's always the yin and the yang. So absolutely, I see more consolidation. in that cybersecurity space. And I think we're going to go through the typical ideation, creation, consolidation journey there as well. I think the piece that I focus on is less about the specific technologies, more about the outcome piece. And so being able to piece all of those together, bring all of those into a cohesive orientation is key. As an example, right? We didn't even talk to our clients. We pulled business email compromise into the core offering without making a big fuss of it, right? And so I think increasingly looking at it and saying, what are the other dimensions? How do we continue to add value in those dimensions with much more of our clients pay us to protect them. They don't look at business email compromise separate from any kind of ransomware or malware or network-based security. Simplifying that vernacular and doing it much more in a comprehensive, solution-oriented manner is always the opportunity for us as service providers.
Yeah, and then were you saying that you have something like a VCIO or CISO for the different verticals?
We do advisory services, absolutely. The VCIO, VCISO services on the front end of it, acting as guidance, providing. What we do is we'll do an assessment of their security posture. So we have a very defined methodology of going in and looking at the current controls and the current posture, what the policy, is there a written policy, how is it shaped, is that even effective, how many people understand it. So there's an aspect of discovery and rebaselining up front with clients in terms of helping them articulate what that policy and posture should be, and how do we make sure then, that often is the easy part. The harder part is, getting it past the policy into a manner that is operationally sound and manifested in reality on the ground, right? So that's the ongoing, sort of service and engagement of working with them to take that what is called a WISP, written information security policy, and make it much more operationable versus just a document that resides on SharePoint.
Seems like there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in front of you. How do you prioritize with, you could do acquisitions, you could do so much more in cybersecurity, you could spend infinite time on AI, you could do so many things. So how are you approaching all this opportunity right now?
Absolutely. Damien, you're right. Focus is key, less is more. I'm a big believer in less is more. And so number one is staying true to our verticals and staying true to our target market segments. So the verticals we're in are the verticals we're in, and the target market is the target market, and really listening to our clients and making sure that we're addressing their needs. And so a lot of what our clients are asking us for is a comprehensive solution that really breaks in the security elements, the cybersecurity elements. So that's where a lot of our focus is right now. I think in the context of 25, it's going to progressively expand into AI, especially early on, identifying use cases, enabling and doing the enablement aspects of helping them get their data estate sorted out, deploying trials, educating and creating training programs for the workforce or for a limited subsection of the workforce. I think I see that as a continuous journey in 25 where we're going to start to expand to do some of those things. But for now, a lot of our focus is on the cybersecurity side and continuing to integrate that much more deeply into our core value proposition of being a public cloud comprehensive managed service provider.
You mentioned AI a number of times. Do you see it as an opportunity or a fear or some of both?
I think everyone's trying to make sense of it, right? There's a lot of AI washing going on, and it's reminiscent of, 10, 15 years ago when cloud, and there was a lot of cloud washing going on, and some companies even put the word cloud in their name. Good luck. So I think it's similar. People kind of jump to it. It becomes everything to everyone. So I think we're in very, very early stages, right? Reality is we're still moving clients into public cloud. still cleaning up a lot of legacy. Right? There's a long tail to that, and there continues to be a lot of focus there. Reality is, password policies and MFA and getting people on security best practices still consumed a lot of oxygen and time. And so, we're continuing to keep our ears on the ground, and I'm not expecting AI to be a big needle mover from a revenue perspective, but I think certainly as I look at a 3-year context of where and how the MSP value proposition evolves, that's going to be a component.
What role do you think you'll play in whether maybe policy, AI policy, pilots, and then maybe training, and then even just the fundamental one, fear, like whether it's the CEOs that you might be selling to, C-suite, or the employees. I think there's a lot of that fear of like, what if my job goes away?
Yeah, I think that you and I both know, right, sort of as early adopters, and we're playing around with technologies and learning every day ourselves, right? It's less about the job going away. It's more about the amplification of the human potential, the way I see it. Who wants to be creating spreadsheets and validating basics and, cleaning up syntax and grammar and, even the research aspects and how those get streamlined. So I see a lot of, basic aspects that get enabled that arguably take a lot of time. And, I see a freeing up of cycles and a redirection of capacity into higher value added tasks, right? Hence the amplification of potential is the way I look at Gen AI, and to be more specific. And I think it's going to be a continued journey, but I think as advisors to our clients, right, that's why bringing a consultative mindset is so key, is our clients looking at us as the technology Sherpas, not just as the ones that are running the underlying infrastructure, but as technology Sherpas who can guide them on how to think about AI, who can partner with them on early use cases, right? That's where we work with a lot of our clients. And in fact, there's a trend going on right now in the accounting profession where they're hiring CIOs, but it's not the CIO you and I would think of. The I is innovation. They're hiring chief innovation officers. And so 2 of our large accounting clients have hired innovation officers, and we're in early stage conversations with them to say, how do we partner with you to make sense of some of this stuff? Policy and AI policy is certainly a place to start, but use cases of firm engagement letters, which means, hey, let's look at the thousands of engagement letters you've done, bring them all together, train the model on how to create a new engagement letter. So I think those are natural opportunities that are going to open up, right, for service providers who are positioned as consultative partners with their clients.
I think that's great advice. For all the MSP owners listening, what do you think they should be looking at or paying the closest attention to right now?
The needs of their client and coming across as solution-oriented, right? I think I say, let the clients guide you, listen to them, spend a lot of time with them, understand their needs. That's why for us, the vertical piece is tremendously enriching, because we can be much more focused that way, and really focus on the specific needs of the verticals we're servicing, understand from them, use them as soundposts for us as we think about our value proposition and the evolution of it.
Now, is Netgain always vertically focused, or do they start out with a horizontal focus like the typical MSP?
We've been blessed. We've always been vertically focused. So we started off as a healthcare MSP, and we acquired a legal MSP. So the legal MSP arguably and that's been around for 28 plus years, was always vertically focused on the legal side. Over a few years, we also expanded organically on the accounting CPA side. We're structured as 3 business units to stay true to the vertical focus, with 3 senior leaders that spend 100% of their time thinking about the needs of their specific verticals.
I love that. I love the focus on the client, the focus on the vertical. I think, like you said, there's a huge opportunity to listen right now. Absolutely. Because there's so much going on, whether it's concerns over cybersecurity or concerns over AI or concerns over the economy or concerns over technology. And while you may not know the answers, like just being engaged in the conversation is still a lot better than some MSPs are doing.
Absolutely.
If you're too busy selling your stack and selling SKUs. What's is there anything that you're in particular looking forward to, Sumeet?
What I'm really looking forward to is how we ourselves use the potential of automation and AI internally to transform our own MSP businesses, right? So I think, like, to give you an example, I'm going through a boot camp over 8 weeks right now, right? And learning about this stuff. And so I think all as MSP owners, being keen learners is sort of comes with the territory. We wouldn't be successful if we weren't intellectually curious. And then I think applying some of that in an organic context of our own businesses becomes equally key. So prescribing advice is one thing, coming across as ones that have gone through the operational aspects of what works and what doesn't work, I think is invaluable.
Yeah, super valuable. Paying attention right now, leaning in is the real difference. And is that, we've talked so much about AI, you bet on cybersecurity in a big way by building out your own SOC. So from an AI perspective, how do you allocate resources? Because is that something you spend some time on? Do you dedicate several full-time employees? Like, it's hard to know when we're so early. Like, how, if I pay too little attention, am I missing out? If I pay too much attention, am I kind of missing the core of my business?
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. There are a million things to do, right? Even if you don't think about AI and just making the business better, and that's where most of our cycle and time goes. I think on the AI side, the approach I've taken is take someone in our company who's deeply passionate about it, who also brings that same intellectual curiosity, and put them on the front end. And in our case, Bill Sorensen, who's our VP of Professional Services, just is very passionate about the topic, spends a lot of his personal time playing around with the technologies, playing around with all of the large language models. He's taken a lot of courses out there. And so he's made it his business to learn. And so partnering with him, what we've done is, as an example, enable Copilot for 12 people internally. We have a weekly forum where we exchange best practices. Hey, I tried to use Copilot to look at the gross margin by client, and here's what worked and here's what didn't work. And so internally, Copilot and ChatGPT, and having paid subscription to those in a subset of folks, and having an ongoing dialogue of what's working, what's not working is one aspect. Two is, I think, being intentional and learning from experts. So I mentioned a boot camp I'm going through right now. I think is a second aspect, but it all comes at the side of the desk. It all comes nights and weekends, right? And it's not a substitute for the day job, unfortunately.
Yeah. I love how you tied it to the passion, because there will be people that are just going to do it either way.
Absolutely. And so finding people who are passionate about it, encouraging them, sponsoring them, allocating some meaningful capital and dollars for them to go do stuff becomes equally key.
Do you think this will change the type of person that we start to look for when we hire somebody with maybe thinks outside of the box, less conventional approach, because the speed of learning seems to be accelerating, and clearly nobody's an AI expert, no matter what people say. So as we start to do this, and even if it's a year or two down the road, if you start delivering actual revenue-based items with AI, somebody's got to know what to do there. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on how that shapes the people side.
Absolutely. I think it just, as sort of has been said before, it's the growth mindset, right? And hiring people that have a growth mindset is so key. For me, I just gave a talk on how to hire senior people, and I think the first thing I said is I rewrote the whole interview format, and I upended it. My interviews start with, really, what questions do you have for me, right? I want to hire people who are insanely curious intellectually. And if you give intellectually curious people an opening, they will take it. And that, to me, is also a reflection. So absolutely hiring people, especially the leadership, because that seeds the culture, who want to go learn, who understand that the world, you blink and, 40 new services are launched in Azure, and the world around us is changing, and the velocity of change is only going to increase, not decrease. And so leaning in and spending time and wanting to navigate all of that and the complexity all of that brings, because the complexity is the opportunity for MSPs, right? That's what keeps us gainfully employed, is the ability to take that complexity and make sense of it, pivot that into solutions that are meaningful, that solve real world problems for our clients. I think that's the exciting part. And to me, the future is exciting because we're not slowing down anytime. If anything, the pace of innovation and technology change is only increasing.
I love that. Sumeet, for the folks that are listening that would like to reach out to you, can you let them know how to find you if you're open to that, or how to connect with you online?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is a great way. I respond to everything I get on LinkedIn. And so look me up, Sumeet Sabharwal on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email, sumeet@netgaincloud.com. Either way, either channel works. Would love to hear from you. Would love to engage in a two-way dialogue. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, I'm always about paying it forward.
Thank you for making time during Build IT Live. I know it's super busy with all the things you're speaking, you're doing all these things. It's a real gift for you to be here. And thank you for being on MSP Mindset.
It's my pleasure, and I hope to continue the dialogue with you as things evolve. But thank you for having me here, David.
Thank you, Sumeet.